Well, I first met Ananda Devi. She was already a writer because I had read some of her short stories when I was in France. And during one of my stays in Mauritius, I had the privilege to share a meal with her family. And I really was very much impressed by the elegance and the culture of her family.
When we grew up so when I was 5 and my brother was 3, and I remember her teaching us to read and write. She wasn't necessarily the disciplinarian in the house. That was probably more my dad. But certainly, like all mum, she has this quiet, strong power that you don't want to mess with too much.
Comme ça que nous nous sommes rencontrés depuis 2000. Donc ça fait 22 ans. Notre relation littéraire s'est construite avec des échanges nombreux. Ça avait commencé tous les jours, nous nous écrivons au sujet de la littérature. Ensuite, nous nous sommes mis à lire l'un l'autre tous nos manuscrits. Donc, d'Ananda Devi, je peux dire que j'ai lu des textes qui ne sont pas sortis, qui ne sortiront jamais. De moi, elle a lu des textes qui ne sont pas encore sortis ou qui ne sortiront jamais.
She's a great novelist. She writes short stories. She's a great poet. Every single thing she touches is talented. And what I admire is her freedom. She knows what she has to do and she does it. She never complains. She worked a lot. You can tell by the number of the books she publishes every year, and she never complains, and she looks so serene and so calm, and at the same time she's so powerful.
She has built a series of tremendous and moving literary images of the female experience in its negative, most often traumatic dimensions.
But she always treats them, yes, with great empathy, with great sensitivity at the time. She's not writing about these things in order to shock or to make the headlines in a way. She's sort of very sensitive to alienated, ostracized members of society and so on, and draws out these very hard topics.
The woman condition is a universal subject, and often her main characters are pariahs or cast aside from society, and that's a reflection of how women are still considered in the modern world, still in 2022, and I think because that's something that's universal across cultures, that will resonate with everyone, with men and women who've observed this, who've seen this, who've experienced this.
But she has to see Mauritius through the crystal of her small island and of her education. And so she deals with all those problems for the developing countries, for the poor people around the world.
Yes, many things make her books very special. For one thing, she is interested in language and the French language. I think she really transforms the French language, adds a lot of interesting, creative ways of using the French language.
Alors c'est la brutalité, la violence dont elle parle, mais habillée d'un style exquis, d'un style très fin, très métaphorique.
I have to confess that I admired most her stylistic mastery, the stylistic mastery of her prose, which harmonizes the contradictory levels of literary representation. Lyrical and naturalism, violence and delicate beauty, the power of dominant languages with the language of minorities.
in the same sentence, she's able to translate anger and violence, and at the same time tenderness and sweetness and joy, and also she's really funny. I mean, in her book also.
And so that artistic talent makes her a quintessential great writer to my mind. I think she is one of the greatest contemporary writers in the French language.
I think I have read everything that she has published, and I very much admire her as a writer since the beginning of her career.
She's a prolific writer. She has been writing now for a long time, and she continues to write and to produce at an impressive rate, but always at high quality as well.
She has two faces, in fact, in her personality.
Elle dit souvent, comme Proust, comme Marcel Proust, qu'il y a deux Ananda. L'une Ananda, c'est elle que nous fréquentons, qui est très polie, très affable, très, je m'excuse de ce mot, très sage, voilà, très bien élevée, qui ne ferait pas de mal à une mouche. Et de l'autre côté, il y a ce que Proust appelle le moi créateur. Alors, le moi biographique, c'est ce que je viens d'évoquer. Et le moi créateur, c'est-à-dire, c'est le moi profond, le moi que l'écrivain connaît, comme ce daimon de Socrate, qui s'active comme le daimon de Socrate au moment de la création. Voilà. Et c'est très intéressant de voir comment ces deux tendances disons, coexistent, s'équilibrent et donnent matière à un tissu artistique très riche dans l'œuvre d'Ananda Devi.
But also the way she writes it's a very poetic way of writing. So they're incredibly difficult subjects, really uncomfortable, but she's able to kind of, I suppose, focus on what's really painful, what really matters, and still take the reader with her. You know, the reader doesn't look away, but she's able to take everyone with her and looking at it with eyes wide open and not shying away from it. And I think that's why that resonates with everyone, and it's not in everyone's ability to be able to do that.
Her sort of reception has moved correspondingly from being a Mauritian writer, a francophone writer, a woman writer, and she really is, I think, now genuinely and rightly recognized as a writer.
Dans tous nos livres, il y a une allusion de l'un au livre de l'autre. Moi, par exemple, dans Hermina, je consacre un chapitre à Soupir d'Ananda Devi. Ça, c'était en 2003. Et puis, en 2014, je publie un livre, La couleur de l'écrivain, en 3 parties. La 3e partie est entièrement consacrée à Ananda Devi. J'ai intitulé cette partie « Éloge de la sarienne », la sarienne faisant référence aux saris qu'elle porte souvent pour des événements littéraires.
In the various conferences and book signings and things where I have met her, you know, she always takes the time, as whilst, you know, walking the room, meeting, shaking hands, meeting people, she always has that time to sort of spend a bit of time with me, with individuals, to share a little bit of gossip or an aside or something. There's there's the humor there as well, a very sort of human touch.
And also she's quite personally, so when she talks in her interventions or interviews, you know, she comes across as very confident. Obviously she's extremely knowledgeable about what she's talking about. The subjects are important for her, but actually in private she's quite she's fairly shy as a person. So that's something that maybe probably doesn't come across when you see Ananda speaking in public.
She's a lovely person. She's every time I see her, I'm so happy because she's a really generous and kind woman.
What I appreciate more in her, apart from the generosity, from her kindness, from her the smile she always has on her face, which is something so pleasant to see, especially when we know how difficult is life for the people in Mauritius. I like very much her sincerity. She's a very sincere person. She never lies. She always says the truth.
I think she's also very funny. She can make jokes and laugh about that. I remember having dinners with her. She appreciates good food, good wine. So she's a very wonderful, personable individual with whom it is a pleasure to collaborate on a project such as that course we taught together.
I think it was how she is. It's more about how she is with my grandson. Oh, not my grandson, my son, her grandson. And every time he spends time with him, I've just realized that his language has increased by a lot more. He knows a lot more words. He has a lot more ideas that he can express it. And I'm just like amazed every time he just spends a week or 2 weeks with her, and that happens. And that's just magical. And also seeing how much love she has for him, that's also something that touches me quite a lot.
My ambition is really to make her known everywhere in this planet, because she's a very brilliant, intelligent, and talented writer, and I think it's a gift, and I feel really lucky to be our editor.
The whole thing, the whole package of Ananda Devi that is the success, and how she's managed to stay sort of faithful to herself and to her beliefs whilst achieving the success that she deserves.
Also, I guess that what you were talking about is the reach that her book have, all the way, not just in the ocean, but coming all the way to Poland, to an extent where such a prestigious institution like yours, giving her an honorary award like this I think it's a credit to the universality of her work and how it's touched people. And I would also say is one of her biggest success there.
The values of the Polish people are very strong, and the value of the Mauritian people are strong too. So it's a good thing that they would meet during this celebration of Mrs. Ananda Devi.
She is still creative, awarded with many excellent awards, translated into several languages. She has been among the candidates for the Nobel Prize for several years. I think it's more than enough for this title of honorary doctorate.